Welcome to Failing for You, where I'll fail so you don't have to, or even better yet, so you can too. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Failing for You. It is me, your host, Jordan Yates, and today I'm joined by a guest, Ryan Wicklum, all the way from Canada. Well, luckily we're recording remotely, so it's
That's
not
right.
too difficult. But Ryan, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's it going today?
Audience is really good. Ryan, how are you?
That's right. I keep forgetting they're not in front of me.
Yeah, no, it's something I always tell people before they get on is sometimes you have to pretend that there's people sitting there and you're talking to them, because I break the fourth wall a lot, and I'm like, and guys, and this is what I mean by that. And it's a funny skill that you develop with podcasting, but you got a sales background, so you could probably talk to a wall.
Yeah, I'm okay.
So, Ryan, you were pretty excited when I had asked who wants to come on the podcast. You were an outstanding yes. So, we're super excited to have you here. It's always nice when somebody is willingly coming on, although we've not held anyone hostage yet in the history of Failing for You. And we don't plan on it. We love a willing participant.
Right on.
But I liked your energy. We've been connected for a while on LinkedIn, which is basically where I meet most of the guests that come on here.
Yeah.
And I thought you had a cool background. You kind of cross over in my industry a little bit. You've got a background in sales, supply chain, all the above. But right now you're currently in sales, and I kind of want to talk about your transition to it. So could you kind of give the listeners a little bit of your background and how you ended up in sales? But real quick, before we get started, let's hear a quick message from our sponsors.
Hi there, I'm David Turner from Process and Automation Specialists. In our world, process improvement isn't just a phrase, it's the key to unlocking efficiency in your operations. With over 20 years of hands-on experience in the heart of manufacturing plants, I've walked in your shoes, worked alongside teams like yours, and understand the ins and outs of your daily challenges. My journey from the plant floor to leading process solutions means I know exactly what it takes to elevate your operations. Interested in transforming your process efficiency with a partner who's been there? Let's connect on LinkedIn. Don't wait for the future of automation. Let's create it. Process and Automation Specialists, engineering efficiency together.
Absolutely. So it's funny. I didn't go to, I came from a small town, didn't go to any post-secondary education. I had a family situation that popped up and dropped out of university to go take care of that. And then because I was taking care of that situation, I was working the midnight shift in the auto factory. So I was 19. I was making, crappy money, but I was doing it. I was working on a punch press all midnight shift, and so that I was kind of wrapped up in the automotive industry. And when that situation finished up, I decided I wasn't going back to school. I was going to keep with automotive. So I worked in the automotive industry quite a bit for a company called Magna, a big tier one that everyone knows about. And then I transitioned into a couple of jobs, and then I ended up at a robotics company, an autonomous robot company that does materials handling for warehouses. And when I came in, very young company, and they appreciated the fact that they were buying from Amazon and had supplier relationships that weren't really relationships. They were very transactional, very functional. And so I came on board and kind of showed them that there was another side to it, that it could be mutually beneficial, not just here's money, give me a product, right? So I did that for 6 years. And then the whole time in my time there and in my time at Magna, I was at these negotiating tables, and I was really envious of people across the table. And I thought, I kind of want to do that. And when my time at the robotics company came to an end, I sat down with my wife and I said, I think I want to go into sales. And she's, at first her reaction was, you're nuts. Wait, you're in your 40s. Why are you pondering this? And then she thought, you know what? You've worked a long time. Here's your chance to kind of re-engage yourself and and move into something that's more energizing for you. So I got a couple of sales jobs outside of when that job at the robotics company ended, and I was complete crap at it. I wasn't very good. I didn't know anything about the sales process or the operational side, the scientific side of sales. And then it's funny, then I worked for a sales training company, selling the sales training. And I would listen to the conversations and I'm like, well, that makes sense. And that makes sense. So that kind of formed, even though I couldn't sell it, and I was terrible at selling it, I
Mm-hmm.
listened in, and almost by osmosis, I took in all the process and all the information. And so I ended up, now I work for a company called ProGlove. We make a wearable barcode scanner, hands-free barcode scanner. And I'm kind of using my background in supply chain, but also that background with that sales training company to, morph into like a decently adequate salesperson.
I like how you saw that a relationship was transactional and you thought there should be more to this. Like I want to show you guys there could be more to like the human side.
Right.
Whereas me being an engineer by trade and incredibly introverted, I think transactional, that sounds wonderful. Like we don't need to
Yeah.
go get lunch. We don't need to talk to each other. Like send me the invoice. Like we're good to go. And I think I always wanted to be an engineer who sat in a cubicle, did spreadsheets, and talked to nobody for, 10 hours a day. I
Right.
fantasized about that. And then I got out of school and the industry was just like everything was in shambles because it was 2020. And so I went into sales and I was like, great.
Perfect.
I have to have a personality now. And it's funny that like for someone like me, I see that as like a dreaded thing because I can have a personality for like 1 to 2 hours a day and then I'm drained. But I love that people like you exist. And I've met so many people like you that are in sales that get energized
Right.
off of talking to people. Can you tell me a little bit more about when you saw that spark? Because I personally don't get it, but I know that other people relate to it.
Well, it's funny because I think I mentioned quickly that I grew up in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
And even in my small town, I was born in 1976. So it's not as if I was born in the 40s, but the small town, way of doing things, there's a lot of almost like the barter system. It's like, this guy over here has a farm. This guy over here does metalwork. This guy over here does, he raises chickens, and this guy raises cows. And there's almost like trading going on outside of the actual business. So because of that, it's very relationship based. And the fact that I grew up with a lot of family and friends because it was so tight. Right. And there was only one high school in my area. So we all went to that same high school, same group of friends for that amount of time. So there wasn't, a lot of times you go through grades 9, 10, 11, 12, and there's some different people in each class. In this case, there wasn't. So I got to deepen relationships, and I got to see and experience those people on a regular basis and learn more about different levels. And then went through the automotive industry, which is very personality based in certain situations because you have to deal with scenarios that are insane. And if a bad shipment of car seats gets to this facility, we lose a bunch of money. Well, how do we prevent that? You prevent that by making things better, so to speak. And like you mentioned about the transactional piece of negotiate, like purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
The 100% transactional procedure relationship that works is a unicorn. It's perfect. Like there's a price and you pay it, and it's simple back and forth. No conversations except I need those today. Can I have them? Here's the price. Okay, great. But other than that, though, nothing in supply chain works that way, right? Especially when you're working for a younger company, because sometimes the engineers, like you mentioned, aren't as experienced as they could be, so that they miss things. And like they'll put a drawing out and there'll be no material called out, or they'll use a different use metric, not imperial. All these things happen, right? And so because of that, you have to make good relationships with the suppliers, because when they get a drawing, they're not going to make what's on the drawing. They're going to question it, like, okay, here's a drawing for a wheel bearing, but there's no material. Like, should I make it out of cotton? Should I make it out of So we have those relationships that they will come to you and say, okay, I think you mean this. Like, what kind of metal are you looking for today? Okay, great, 61, 62. Off we go, right? So that's the kind of thing where there's a balance there between the number, between qualitative and quantitative. And I've always said that the supply chain engineer is a mythical creature, because they have equal parts commercial and technical, and they jive, right? They just mesh. Other than that, though, the people like you and people like me, who you have a great background in engineering, I have no background in engineering, and you love numbers and I hate numbers. So when, like I mentioned before, when I saw big data and AI and all these things coming down the pipe at me, as a supply chain person with no supply chain training and no educational training beyond high school, I thought, I'm out. That just accentuated my transition into sales, because I thought, okay, I want to go do that because they don't have to know that stuff. They have a background, but it's more personality based. So like I said, I was pretty terrible those first 3 gigs, and then I think I'm getting it.
Yeah, no, your background is like it's beautiful. I feel like it was a very heartwarming thing to think of like a society where there is like a barter system almost, and that there is so much, I guess, emphasis on human relationships and
Right.
business to human. And like that's something I feel very disconnected from. I've lived in a small town like once upon a time, but most of the time I bounced around a lot of like metroplex areas,
Yep.
and I think that is a different mentality of living like that. And something I like about a barter system is something I learned from my dad, which is basically like everything in life is negotiable, like
Everything.
everything. And I
Everything.
try to convince my friends of that. Like we went apartment shopping for one of my friends, and I was like, don't take the price they give you. Like ask for a month free, ask for this, ask for that. And she's like, you can't do that. I was like, I promise you can. Like there's not much in
Yeah.
life that you can't negotiate because a lot of things are decided by people. And I think that's probably like, given your background there, made you so well suited for sales. It's crazy that it took you until you were, in your 40s to think like this is for me. Cause to me, it sounds like it's a natural fit. So you did have to, as you said, learn more the technical side of sales,
Yeah.
though. Although sales people think, oh, it's just a bunch of BSing and you're going out to lunch, you're having drinks, you're schmoozing people.
Yep.
There is a bit of a technical sales process in place. And if you've been in sales, especially technical sales, you'll know that. So can you kind of tell us what it was like when you were learning that technical sales process, and like kind of what it took for it to click for you?
Oh, I felt like a salmon upstream, to be honest with you. I felt it, I was bombarded and I did a bit of background in some exposure to training like Miller Hyman and that kind of thing. But the actual sales methodologies like BANT and MEDIC and all these acronyms, they come at you, and they almost like an experienced salesperson will have that kind of ingrained in them.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was learning at the time, so I went into a situation that they assume because I'm in my 40s and I'm in sales, I've been in sales my whole life, so I
Mm-hmm.
should have that background, right? And I completely did not. So I was learning on the job, literally, and then COVID hit, so
Yeah.
I couldn't go visit, and you had to learn how to sell virtually. And then because COVID hit, a lot of people that were approaching retirement age, they retired. And now there was a new wave of purchasers that were more tech savvy, and they were younger, and they would do a lot more of the research. It used to be that in sales, like the purchaser does like, 42% of the buying cycle, and then
Mm-hmm.
they go to supplier for more help. Now it's more like 60 to 70.
Wow.
They've gone all the way. They've done the research. They've researched competitors. They've read reviews on different apps that they have. Like I said, they're more tech savvy, so they don't want to sit there and be schmoozed, and they don't want to have long meetings. They want to stack up half an hour meetings when they're in the office or virtually,
Mm-hmm.
and then they want to do their job outside of that because there's more information that they have. So it's funny that through COVID, like I went through that, and I look at it as I survived COVID, much like we all did, but like
Yeah.
survived it from a sales standpoint, where I had no idea going in, and I just had to learn it. And then what you do is you pick up pieces of information from everybody, right? And you kind of form your own methodology. It might not be an official methodology, but it's a way of doing things. And I quickly determined that sales, like the analogy I use is, it's sales, you're half doctor and half trail guide, right? First off, you're taking pain away, and then you're guiding to a solution. But if you mix them up, it's disaster,
Yeah, it
because
is.
people think that you are only going to guide them to your solution. And they think, okay, well, he doesn't care about me because all he wants to do is guide to a solution. There's no problem. He doesn't take the time to take my pain away yet. When you take the pain away first, you become a trusted advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, like, they put you on a pedestal, like, oh, Ryan took my pain away. Even if it wasn't, what he's selling, he knows some people, so he can make introductions in HR, finance, all these things, anything to help out. And then all of a sudden, now that I'm trusted, it's a little bit more easier to guide. And I think
Yeah.
that the biggest thing for me in sales is understanding that negotiation. People look at the idea that you need to win a negotiation. Well, if you win, that means somebody lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that you are now associated with a loser in your mind because they lost a negotiation. And it's natural that opinion is going to permeate into your thinking, and then just the balance of power is now shifted
Mm-hmm.
in your own mind. and it affects the way you react. It affects the way you interact with them. So getting to that mutually beneficial level with your supplier, customer, colleague, friend, whoever it is, that's the ideal situation. That's the ideal state.
Welcome to the future of industrial automation with GEA of Texas, your go-to source for high-tech automation components and engineered solutions. With over 50 years of expertise, we bring unparalleled innovation to your doorstep. From advanced PLCs to robust control panels, we partner with world-class manufacturers to deliver excellence. Ready to transform your industrial operations? Visit GEAoftexas.com today. GEA of Texas, engineering success one solution at a time.
Is that mutually beneficial, almost symbiosis?
Yeah, no, I feel like you're making such a good point because I started sales around when you did. I mean, I did some sales before that, but like my official first sales job out of college, I remember going through and learning, asking questions, getting to that pain point. And I think that's something a lot of people fresh in sales forget to do because they're too nervous to ask questions, or they think like you're not allowed to ask questions. And we always had this joke that like the fresh salespeople would always show up and throw up. That's the words they would use. Like you go in and you're like, "Hi, I'm Jordan and I sell variable frequency drives in Yaskawa, and like, do you want to buy any drives?" And they're like, "Honey, like we don't even use drives. Like, what are you talking about?" And it's like you try to tell them everything you do, and then it's like, okay, well, you completely lost them because you're clearly so set on your agenda of getting this line card out that you're not even actually like there to like talk to the person. The person's like, why am I here? I could have read this on the website. So that is such a important skill. And then I think too, like you said, it's weird the way that the buying culture has shifted a little bit, especially through COVID, because it was kind of hard enough on salespeople before because everybody always thinks, oh, salespeople are manipulative. They're like sly. They're doing stuff. And
they're sneaky.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember my very first boss out of college, Clint Pruitt, shout out Clint. He like is so he was a sales guy for like 40 something years. I don't want to date him, but like he told me something one day because I asked him, Clint, like, do you ever get tired of like being the sales guy, like, and people not liking you? Like, are you ever afraid that people are gonna like think less of you for being in sales? And he's like, no, I'm helping people who need to be helped. Like if you're there and you're helping them, then you're the good guy. And I'm like, oh my God, like why did I never think of that?
It's funny you mentioned it too, because you give a shout out to my current manager, Christian Radu, because his viewpoint is the following. He said, learn as much as you can about your prospect, your customer, and then your job is to teach them how to buy your product.
Mm-hmm.
You're not selling them the product. You're teaching them how to buy it. But I think what he means by that is you're teaching them all the nuances, and you're teaching them how to make it almost sticky in their mind that I need to buy this product, and then what is the optimum way for them to purchase it and to procure it? Because you don't want to make it seem as if you're forcing a deal, but you're almost making it seem as if, okay, I'm going to give you all the information you have, and I'm going to support you in this particular fashion, and therefore you are going to learn how to buy this product.
Yeah.
And therefore you almost make yourself inconsequential.
Yeah.
Because they know they need it, and they know and here's how to buy it. And therefore, once you get to that point, it's cake.
And then you're the easiest person to buy it with because like you already laid it out for them. The purchasing path is there, but it's definitely takes time to learn how to do that, I would say, especially because you have to learn what you're selling in depth to do that. But I'm curious, in your beginning time in sales, or maybe even recently, do you have any stories of a time that you really fumbled a sales call, or you really just like rubbed someone the wrong way and like had to kind of learn the hard way?
Yeah, I think there's two things I can bring up. Number one is just a generic. When you're sending a lot of prospecting emails and that kind of thing, your two choices are you just send a mass email out to 1,500 people, using an outreach program or whatever it is, or you copy and paste and change the email address.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. So the biggest thing is always remember to almost like measure twice, cut once, right? Measure, read it twice, send it once, and make sure that the name that is in the body of the email matches the email address, because let me tell you, it causes big problems. And especially if you do it, it's not so much you might lose a prospect. That's one thing, but when you lose an opportunity that they're really interested in your product, and all of a sudden you call them the wrong name, and you're like, listen, man, I gotta go, and you never hear from them again, right? And that's the generic side. I think the situational side, like the scenario, is I remember I was sitting across from Mitsubishi, and it's great, it was a great conversation, everything was going well, and then I looked across like the proverbial table because it was during COVID, and I said, okay, is there anything else I can help with, sir? And right away, it's like the kind of like eyebrow shot up, and I realized I wasn't talking to a man.
Oh no, you misgendered someone.
I had misgendered somebody, yes.
Oh, it's even worse in today's days.
It was so bad, and it wasn't intentional. I wasn't being a jerk about it. It's just that the person really looked like a guy.
Yeah.
And because it was a Japanese name, I should have done my research.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit, but there was no picture on LinkedIn, and there was no mention of gender beside like he, him, or any pronouns after that. So the whole time I thought, okay, I gotta be careful, and then I just threw it out there. I thought that's the moment that I lost the Mitsubishi deal.
Yeah, no, that's so hard too, because it's like you're trying to be respectful by throwing in a sir, and then just to do it wrong. Like, I feel like this is actually like really relatable to a lot of people in today's day and age, especially with the nuances around the gender, misgendering and whatnot. And I won't get too deep into that, but the fact that you're actually coming on and willing to admit to that happening is so brave, because people get so up in arms about it. And I know everyone has their reasons for being upset, whatever, but it's refreshing that you're being honest and telling us about it, because it happens.
I'm as straightforward as it comes, and I grew up with sir and ma'am and please and thank you, and because I grew up with the intersection of small town, and my dad was in the military, so everything was by the book in a certain way, and so I can't shake sirs and ma'ams, and it's, in this case, it kind of bit me in the ass, right?
If it makes you feel any better, anytime someone doesn't know me and they're meeting me through email for the first time, I'm Jordan and I'm an engineer. I get called sir constantly, and usually I'm just like, oh, actually it's ma'am, not that it matters, but like just moving forward, because like you email people for a while, and it's so hard because like Jordan is such a male dominated name, and then like engineering's a male dominated field. Like you put two and two together, it's likely that the Jordan engineer is a man, but it always cracks me up because people are just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, like I didn't mean to, and I'm like, oh, it's cool, I just didn't want you to think you're talking to a man, like I just want to let you know.
I think when you have so my first initials are, in the first syllable of my last name is Wick, so I get Rick all the time.
Oh my goodness.
And so I think you make a decision, you get to a certain point where you have the fork in the road. Are you a stickler for it, or you just embrace it?
Exactly.
And so when I was at Magna, I had this wall of celebrity Ricks. And every time I get a Rick, I put a new celebrity Rick on the wall. And it became a thing. People could come over like, wow, what's that? And explain the situation. So that every time they come back again to the desk, okay, like, where's the new one today? And because I knew that once a week, someone's going to call me Rick in an email.
I needed to get like a mustache wall or something for all my Sir Jordans.
Maybe. Yeah. It's like, that'd be interesting. Like almost like in college football, how they have like the stars on the helmets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you should have like mustaches on your hat.
Oh my God. No, that's pretty funny. Okay. So lots of sales stories. We go down the rabbit hole forever with that, but I want to shift in the like last third of our time and talk about something we were chatting about before we started, which is you've made this career shift into sales.
Yeah.
But I had asked, like, sales, are you traveling more? But it sounds like you've traveled a lot through all of your career.
Right.
And something that is, I feel like, relevant to a lot of us is trying to travel when you have a family. And I mentioned to you, like, I feel like it's not talked about as much with men. And I made a joke and I was like, I guess men love their families too, but like, that's not the mainstream thing. Like, I feel like anytime a woman comes on a podcast, they're like, and how do you balance family and work? But as you know, Ryan, like, you're in sales, you've done supply chain, you were busy before.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to hear about your experience of balancing travel, your career, and having a family, and what that's been like for you.
I think you have to travel cognizantly. I think you have to travel as if, okay, if you know you're going to leave, first week of March, the middle of February, you start preparing yourself, right? You maybe do a little bit more around the house. Maybe you spend a little bit more time with kids or your spouse, just to alleviate the pressure, knowing that when you're gone, then it's on them to take care of everything.
Yeah.
And, an example of that is, I remember I was at a trade show in Vegas, and my daughter was 1.5 or 2, and she came down with cold sores. And it was the worst, to the point where I called home and my wife, she's the sweetest soul. She said, listen, I don't want to talk to you right now. And hey, I get it. She told me what's going on. That sounds like the worst situation in the world.
Yeah.
So I let her go. And then when I came home, I was cognizant of the fact that she had 5 days with this, cold sore filled baby.
Yeah.
They're a toddler. And okay, I got this. I'm going to put some more effort in. And you have to understand your situation too. You have to understand the kids are, especially with children, there's different stages in life. And also, I think what the advice is, be very aware of things that are going on in their lives. My son, I think when I started traveling, he was 6, maybe 6 or 7. And it was harder I'd understand what was going on, because now all of a sudden, he's going through some stuff, and then now I'm gone for 4 days. Right. Or I'm gone to China for 8 days, or whatever it was. And you have to be very, cognizant, but also aware of the situation at home, about what's going on, because when you come back, it's going to be accentuated, likely, that, now that one of the parents bounced, now they're back. What was bubbling before is now at the surface.
Yeah.
Or has exploded. And now we're dealing with the aftershocks of that explosion. So I think it's a matter of just be considerate, know what's going on, look at the calendar, do some nice things before and after you leave. And it's okay. Even if it's kind of thing where there might not be children involved, it might be just a, husband and wife, or people that are married and or any in a relationship. Even if you leave for a couple of days, you're still creating, a blip in time where their normal cadence is different. Right. And even if you get to the point where, nowadays, some couples, they binge a certain show. It seems insignificant, but that's comfort.
Yeah.
Right. Where if you're in the middle of a show and you're episode 7 of 10, and all of a sudden, you're gone for 3 days, you create this moment in time where, regularity is now different. And it may not seem like a significant thing, but it can be.
No, that's such a good point.
You've taken normalcy and you've kind of turned done a 90-degree turn, right? So
because then all the comfort's gone, comfort show's gone, comfort person's gone, and you just
100%.
You're the one that's out traveling, but then you have to remember to be considerate of those that you left behind, because even though you're doing hard stuff, there's still people at home whose lives you kind of disrupted by going.
And even you and I both dog people, and even dogs pick it up, cats pick it up. Maybe not cats, because cats are kind of on their own anyway. They're kind of aloof. But with a dog, dogs know when you're gone, right? And then they get out of sorts, and then when you come back, it's okay. Now everything's back normal. But it's that initial, I know with our dog, when I go, there's times he won't eat, or he won't go out to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's daddy's gone. And all of a sudden, things are different. And then when I get back, it's pandemonium, but then it's back to, calibration, right? It's back to, back to zero, right? So it's just a matter of being self-aware, be cognizant of what's going on, and just be considerate of people's feelings and your pets and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's good to think about that stuff, because I know a lot of people my age, we really glamorize traveling, and a lot of people think I don't want to have a family yet. I want to travel for years. I want to do all this before I have a family. But would you say that it's possible to do both and be it's okay? I mean, you've been doing it for a while. Do you think people should wait, or do you think it's situational? Or is it, can you have it all?
I think, Jordan, it's a matter of what you want.
Yeah.
People are all different, and we're all wired differently. Our DNA is, completely, this side, that side. The biggest thing is, I'm a big believer in any situation. Do a continuous self-inventory of who you want to be and where you want to be, and make sure your company you keep is solid. But just always assess, what's going on inside you, because especially as the older you get, like my father always said, be considerate, but be a little bit selfish, because you need to be. People can pick up on the fact you're not happy, then they'll pick up on it.
Yeah.
Right, and then they'll alter the way they treat you, and then that's not organic, right? It's not natural. So do a self inventory, and if you get to the point where you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, and you think, oh, I want to keep traveling, and like, you can do both. You can get married, have a family, and travel, and you can be a working person and you can travel, right? Just like I said, do it in a way that doesn't seem, and I get it, some situations it's tough to do if you're in sales and you're an executive and you're constantly on the go. Just be aware that the what I guess what I throw at you is my one learning for this whole discussion is life is about opportunity cost. Like, opportunity cost is the business ideal that I teach my kids, even my 6-year-old. I try to teach her that if you're doing this, you're not doing this. And then, so if you're traveling all over the place, the opportunity cost is your relationships. And if you're not traveling, then the opportunity cost is your career. Understand that good or bad is always a trade-off. There's always a counterbalance. And I think that's what I'm saying. If you travel, be as considerate as possible, because the relationships won't be as affected. Whereas if you always are on the go, and the company says, okay, I need you in Boston tomorrow, and you always go, then you set the bar at a certain point, and they're not going to expect anything less. So it's I'd say do a self-inventory, always know what the opportunity cost is, and just be aware that every conversation that you set, or every relationship you have, the bar's been set somewhere. And it's that initial conversation, that initial impression that sets that bar. And so you can't really go under the bar. You have to go. It's always above the bar from that point forward. So
no, that's really good. I love and hate the concept of opportunity cost, because I think about it constantly with literally everything. So I'm
you're an
always
engineer,
weighing
right? So
it.
that would make sense, right?
So
if you flood that side, this side's going to fall.
Yep. And then I also, though, I'm weirdly okay with sunken cost, because I know a lot of people get caught up in the sunken cost fallacy of like, oh, I've put all this like time and energy and money in, like I have to keep pushing. I'm really good at cutting my losses. It took me a while to get to that point, but I definitely think if you think about the opportunity cost ahead of time, you won't have to worry about the sunken cost as much. But Brian, this was a really good conversation. I feel like there's a lot of people that could relate to what we talked about today, everything from the sales to balancing, traveling with family and all how that ties in together. So thank you so much for coming on today. I normally at the end, I'm like, well, do you have anything else to wrap it up? But I feel like you kind of wrapped it up perfectly there. So, yeah, I mean, I guess unless there's anything else you want to say, now is your time.
No, it's good. Like, it's a pleasure being on. And I definitely appreciate the conversation. Like, it's nice to have conversations that don't involve, negotiation or money or anything like that.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I will link all of Ryan's like LinkedIn and stuff like that in the description here. So if you want to connect with him, chat more with him, and learn more about what he does, feel free to reach out. Can't guarantee he'll answer, but you could totally try.
I'll answer. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. And as always, I'm your host, Jordan Yates. And in the meantime, I'll be failing for you. See you next time.